Hey Bougie clique. Have you ever wondered about the impact of male-centered toxic mothers on their children? Through the lens of reality TV personality Evelyn Lozada, we'll explore how these mothers, driven by a need for male validation, can deeply affect their children, especially daughters. This isn't just about favoritism, it's about a hierarchy that can leave lasting scars. We'll unpack the traits of male-centered parenting, the psychological impacts, and the generational patterns that perpetuate this cycle. Whether you're here to find solace in shared experiences or to better understand a loved one's struggles, this episode is for you. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and join the conversation in the comments. Let's get into it.
I'ma make you a fan.
Toxic mothers who are male-centered, Evelyn Lozada, Basketball Wives, Case Study. Not all toxic mothers are created equal. Some mothers wound through neglect, others through control. But the male-centered mother? She wounds through hierarchy, and you, daughter, were never meant to climb higher than the nearest man. These mothers don't just prefer their sons. That would be too simple. No, the male-centered mother worships at the altar of masculinity itself. Her sons, her husband, her boyfriend, that random uncle who shows up for Sunday dinner, they all matter more than you ever will. Not because of who they are, but because of what's between their legs. Toxic parenting is not a myth, and toxic mothers who center their lives around male validation or male children create a distinct and measurable pattern of psychological damage in their offspring. Whether driven by narcissistic personality traits, unmet emotional needs, or cultural expectations about gender roles, this dynamic has real consequences, especially for the sons and daughters caught in the crossfire. What male-centered really means. A mother can be male-centered in a few overlapping ways. Validation from men is treated as the highest currency. Instead of valuing her own autonomy or healthy attachment to her child, she prioritizes male praise, male attention, or male authority. This often shapes how she interacts with her children, especially her sons. Sons are idealized or instrumentalized. Sons are cast as emotional supporters, prestige symbols, or even replacements for intimate partners rather than being allowed to grow into independent adults. This is not affection. It is emotional enmeshment and role reversal. The pick-me mother playbook. You know her moves because you've lived them. When your brother failed algebra, it was the teacher's fault. When you made honor roll, it was nice, but when are you getting married? When dad cheated, mom blamed the other woman, and probably you for wearing shorts in your own house. When your brother cheated, well, boys will be boys, and she probably wasn't meeting his needs. The male-centered mother runs her household like a service station for masculine comfort. She'll wake up at 5 a.m. to iron your brother's shirt but tell you to figure out your own lunch. She'll spend her last dollar on your father's beer but shame you for needing school supplies. She'll defend your uncle's inappropriate comments but call you fast for existing in your body. Narcissism and maternal toxicity. Research shows that narcissistic traits in parents, whether grandiose or vulnerable, are associated with poor parent-child relationships and negative psychological outcomes for children. These include insecure attachment, emotional inconsistency, and maladaptive emotion regulation. Narcissistic traits do not always look like traditional confidence. They often look like emotional inconsistency, conditional love, projection of unmet needs onto children, emotional manipulation. Children are not seen as individuals but as extensions of the mother's identity. How sons are specifically affected. Contrary to some stereotypes, when a mother fixates on her son rather than a partner, it does not produce a healthy masculine identity. Instead, sons become emotional husbands in training. They are expected to provide the emotional labor a real partner should provide. That is not love, it is parentification. Sons become golden children. This means being idealized until independence is attempted, at which point the mother frames separation as betrayal. The emotional blackmail is real. After everything I did for you, you are leaving me? Masculinity becomes confused with caretaking. Rather than learning healthy independence, many sons internalize that their value lies in emotional caretaking and self-sacrifice. This often leads to trouble forming adult partnerships free from unhealthy dependency or guilt. Daughters do not escape this dynamic either. When the focus is on male validation or male achievement, daughters are treated as rivals for attention. Their accomplishments are downplayed. They may be used to bolster the mother's agenda, such as being told they must please the mother to earn validation. Even when research focuses on daughters, perceived maternal narcissism correlates with lower emotional balance and self-esteem. Daughters as competition, not children. Here's where it gets dark. The male-centered mother often sees her daughter as competition. Not for motherhood, but for male attention. She'll accuse you of trying to seduce your stepfather by walking to the bathroom in pajamas. She'll call you jealous when you point out your brother's preferential treatment. She'll side with any man who hurts you because deep down, she believes you deserved it, or worse, that you wanted it. This mother teaches you early that your value exists only in relation to male approval. But here's the twist: she'll sabotage your efforts to get it. Dress too nice? You're doing too much. Gain male attention? You're fast. Succeed without male validation? You're thinking you're better than everybody. The betrayal blueprint: how male-centered mothers operate. Male-centered mothers operate from a scarcity mindset where male attention is currency and other women, including their daughters, are competition. They create environments where boundaries don't exist. Your daughter's man becomes fair game for flirtation. Male validation trumps maternal protection. The need to be desired overrides the duty to nurture. Daughters become props, used to attract men or prove desirability by proximity. Generational trauma gets gift-wrapped, teaching daughters that their worth depends on male approval. Statistical evidence of harm. While precise percentages vary across studies and populations, the patterns are consistent. Poor relational outcomes are linked to parental narcissistic traits. Children of narcissistic parents show greater insecurity, conflict, and negative communication in parent-child relationships. Scapegoating predicts anxiety and depression. Higher perceived maternal narcissism often leads to children being blamed for emotional problems and displaying more anxiety and depressive symptoms later in life. Maternal stress correlates with adolescent aggression, especially among boys. When mothers are emotionally burned out and rejecting, boys exhibit higher levels of aggression. These are not anecdotes. They are verified findings from controlled psychological research. Why male-centered toxicity often goes unchallenged. There is a cultural blind spot when it comes to mothering. Mothers are expected to love unconditionally. When a mother is toxic, people often minimize the damage because the narrative is mother's nurture. Subtle emotional abuse leaves fewer visible scars. Unlike physical neglect, emotional manipulation and enmeshment often show up as lifelong patterns of insecurity, not immediate crisis. Sons who are emotionally attached to their mothers are dismissed as mama's boys. Rather than recognizing deep harm, society trivializes the symptoms. This cultural minimization compounds the psychological damage. The mother-daughter entanglement, Evelyn and Shaniece from childhood to now. Evelyn Lozada's public persona on Basketball Wives and in reality television more broadly has often been defined by her romantic relationships with high-profile men, and this pattern appears to have influenced her role as a mother in ways critics describe as male-centered and, at times, detrimental to her daughter's independence. Evelyn became a mother at 17, a fact she and Shaniece have publicly discussed as a shared journey that has deeply bonded them. Evelyn has framed this early parenthood as something they took together, suggesting a blurred dynamic in which their identities remain intertwined rather than differentiated over time. Evelyn's own highly publicized relationships with professional athletes and entertainers, from NFL player Chad Ochocinco-Johnson to MLB player Carl Crawford, have frequently eclipsed her identity outside of romance and connection to men. While these relationships generated tabloid headlines, media coverage often lingered on the drama rather than on Evelyn's individual achievements, reinforcing a narrative that male associations define her public worth. In her highly publicized split from Johnson after domestic violence, Evelyn turned to Shaniece for emotional support, recounting that they spent months closely together during recovery. While this story was framed by some outlets as evidence of a loving bond, the centrality of male conflict in shaping that bond is also evident in how the narrative was presented and consumed. Reality television doesn't just depict relationships, it interprets them through both the edited storyline and the commentary of co-stars. In Basketball Wives, several castmates have weighed in on Evelyn Lozada's treatment of her daughter Shaniece Hairston in ways that underscore patterns critics connect to a male-centered, enmeshed maternal dynamic. One of the most frequently discussed tensions involving Shaniece arose from castmate Jennifer Williams, who was accused of making disparaging remarks about Shaniece's personal life. Malaysia Pargo alleged Williams said Shaniece slept around, having sex with anybody around Miami, and that Shaniece's body was fake, which led to a highly publicized confrontation on the show. Jackie Christie also became a flashpoint in this discourse. During a heated exchange, Tammy Roman recounted that Evelyn once told Christie to take care of her own daughter, remarking that Evelyn should know better than to involve kids in cast drama, even as Evelyn insisted fans and co-stars keep Shaniece's name out of Basketball Wives conflicts. Behind the scenes, cast commentary and fan commentary alike signal perceptions of Shaniece's upbringing as enmeshed with Evelyn's social and romantic identity. Online discussions among viewers frequently link Shaniece's adult relationship choices to patterns modeled by her mother, suggesting that having a public persona closely tied to male-centered drama may have shaped Shaniece's own relational expectations. Some fans have gone so far as to argue that Shaniece's co-parenting with rapper The Game reflects a continuation of relational cycles that characterized Evelyn's high-profile partnerships, framing the dynamic less as an autonomous choice and more as an inherited pattern. This male-centered legacy appears to have manifested in Shaniece's own relationship choices. Shaniece's recent pregnancy and co-parenting with rapper The Game, a figure whose personal history and public persona have drawn controversy, highlights how relational patterns can recur across generations. Evelyn publicly embraced news of her daughter's pregnancy with praise focused on the man's perceived role as a father, telling OK! Magazine that she felt peace upon learning The Game was the father and emphasizing his devotion to his children. The Game and Evelyn, a history of inappropriate energy. In a recent episode of Drop the Low, Shaniece asked The Game to address rumors about his romantic involvement with her mother, Evelyn. Let's be clear, when a 32-year-old woman has to ask her baby's father if he slept with her mother on a podcast, we're dealing with a household where boundaries were obliterated long ago. The fact that Shaniece had to ask her baby daddy if he ever slept with her mother is not just a messy podcast moment, it's the symptom of a lifelong pattern. When a daughter grows up with a mother who blurs boundaries, competes for male attention, and prioritizes desirability over dignity, she internalizes one devastating truth: my mother might choose a man over me. That fear doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from childhood. But the most telling detail? Shaniece asked if she ever sat on his lap as a 12-year-old child calling him uncle. His response, "I'm not Santa Claus," suggests this narrative of inappropriate childhood connections was another piece of the toxic puzzle. Whether real or imagined, the fact that adult Shaniece carries these questions reveals a childhood where adult male attention was currency and boundaries were suggestions. The threesome rumors didn't materialize from thin air. They grew from an environment where mother and daughter were viewed as interchangeable by men. Sexual boundaries between generations were blurred enough to make such rumors believable. The mother's need for male validation created space for these narratives to flourish. The timeline itself tells a story. The Game was engaged to Tiffany, had children with her, watched her attend Evelyn's events, then ended up having a baby with Evelyn's daughter. In any healthy mother-daughter dynamic, this would be unthinkable. In Evelyn's world? It's Tuesday. This isn't just about one inappropriate relationship, it's about a mother who created an environment where her daughter learned that all women, including mother figures and their friends, are competition for male attention. Where boundaries are for women who aren't pretty enough to break them. Where your mother's friend's man is fair game if you can get him. The Tiffany-Cambridge connection, when friends become casualties. The allegations that Shaniece stole the game from one of Evelyn's friends, his ex-fiancée Tiffany Cambridge, add another layer to this toxic dynamic. Male-centered mothers often befriend their daughters' romantic interests' exes. Create situations where loyalty becomes impossible. Turn their daughters into unwitting competitors. Normalize betrayal as just how women are. This isn't about Shaniece's choices, it's about growing up in an environment where crossing boundaries for male attention was modeled as normal behavior. The betrayal runs deeper than social media initially understood. Tiffany Cambridge wasn't just some random ex of the game, she was photographed at Evelyn's baby shower, smiling in group photos, seemingly part of the inner circle. These weren't casual acquaintances who bumped into each other at industry events. These were women who broke bread together, celebrated milestones, and posed for cameras as friends. Think about the audacity. Evelyn attended events with a woman who shares 2 children with the game, King Justice Taylor and Callie Dream Taylor, then watched, or perhaps encouraged, as her daughter pursued that same man. The photos from Evelyn's baby shower with Tiffany aren't just evidence of friendship, they're receipts of betrayal. Every smile in those photos now reads as a snake's grin, every hug a Judas kiss. Viewed through this lens, the Evelyn-Shaniece dynamic can be interpreted not merely as a close mother-daughter bond, but as a relational pattern in which male figures and male-centered drama serve as pivotal organizing frameworks for identity and public narrative. This dynamic has shaped both women's paths and underscores how maternal influence, when mediated primarily through male-centered experiences, can perpetuate cycles of dependency on external validation and relational conflict rather than fostering independent self-definition. The normalization of disrespect, when laughter becomes betrayal. Here's what makes this dynamic on the Drop the Low podcast particularly devastating: Evelyn Lozada's laughter. Not silence, not discomfort, but actual laughter at the game's admissions of profound disrespect toward her daughter. This isn't just platforming toxicity, it's finding it amusing. The soundtrack of betrayal. When the game openly admitted he only wanted a baby with Shaniece because she was a baddie and thought it would be fun, reducing her entire worth to aesthetic entertainment, Evelyn laughed. When he doubled down on refusing to change diapers, establishing that he'd only participate in Instagram-worthy moments of fatherhood, there was laughter. This man was publicly admitting he saw her daughter as a collectible, not a partner worthy of commitment or even basic parenting participation, and the response from the one person who should have been Shaniece's fiercest defender? Amusement. The psychological violence of watching your mother laugh while someone details exactly how little you meant to them cannot be overstated. Each chuckle sends a message: this is funny. Your pain is content. Your heartbreak is entertainment. The laughter transforms what should be a moment of maternal protection into a public co-signing of disrespect. It teaches not just Shaniece but every woman watching that even your mother might find your devaluation amusing if it makes for good podcast content. The performance of the cool mom at daughter's expense. This laughter reveals something darker about the commodification of Black women's pain for entertainment. By laughing at the game's toxic admissions, Evelyn performs a specific type of cool mom persona, unbothered, above it all, able to find humor in her daughter's heartbreak. But this performance comes at a price: her daughter's dignity. The message becomes clear: maintaining the vibe of the podcast matters more than protecting your child from public humiliation. When a mother laughs at comments about how a man won't marry her daughter, refuses basic parenting duties, and admits he only wanted her for shallow reasons, she's teaching a masterclass in internalized misogyny. She's demonstrating that women's pain, even your own daughter's, is acceptable fodder for male entertainment. The laughter says, this is normal. This is what men do. Might as well laugh about it. But normalizing disrespect through humor doesn't make it less violent, it just makes the violence socially acceptable. The intergenerational transmission of accepting less. When a mother provides a platform for a man to openly discuss his refusal to fully commit to or care for her daughter, she's modeling acceptance of disrespect. The research indicates Shaniece called herself a single mom shortly after their child's birth. The relationship's failure was predictable from a man who saw her as an aesthetic choice rather than a life partner. the psychological profile emerging from the game's own words, his admission about respectful cheating, his view of women as baddies to collect, his refusal to engage in unglamorous aspects of partnership, reveals someone who views relationships as performances where he's always the star and women are supporting cast. By platforming these views without challenge, the podcast risks teaching a generation of women that this is just how men are, rather than how we've allowed them to be. Long-term adult consequences. Adults raised in male-centered narcissistic maternal environments often struggle with low self-esteem, chronic guilt, perfectionism, fear of commitment, anxiety and depression, unstable or dependent relationships. These are not character flaws. They are the long shadows of a childhood where love was conditional and identity was never individually respected. Breaking free from the male-centered matrix. Recognition is the first step to liberation. When you can see the pattern, you can break it. Yes, your mother failed you. Yes, she chose them over you, repeatedly, predictably, painfully. No, it wasn't your fault. You weren't too much or not enough. You were a daughter who deserved to be centered in your mother's heart, and she couldn't do it because she'd already given that space away. But here's your power: you can choose differently. You can center yourself. You can love your daughters, biological or spiritual, without making them compete with men for your affection. You can teach them their worth exists independent of masculine validation. You can be the mother you needed, even if you're only mothering yourself. What daughters of male-centered mothers must learn. If you recognize your mother in this dynamic, understand. Her behavior isn't about you, it's about her unhealed wounds and internalized misogyny. You don't owe her access to your relationships, boundaries are not betrayal. Male validation is an inheritance, you can choose differently. Your worth exists independently, not in comparison to or competition with her. Healing is possible, but it requires naming the pattern first. No sugarcoating. Let's be clear, being a mother does not automatically confer emotional insight, maturity, or psychological health. A mother who demands her children fill emotional or relational voids she refuses to address in herself is not loving. She is using her children as emotional currency. And that exact behavior, whether called narcissistic, male-centered, or toxic, is documented to undermine secure attachment and psychological well-being in children. Conclusion. A mother who centers her psychological world around male validation, male children, or male partners is not doing her children any favors. Scientific research paints a consistent picture. Such dynamics are linked to poor relationship quality, emotional dysregulation, and lifelong psychological baggage. What looks like affection or favoritism is often control, conditional love, and emotional exploitation. That is toxicity, not maternal warmth. Some of you are reading this and feeling seen for the first time. Others are recognizing your own tendencies and feeling called out. Good. Discomfort means growth is possible. The male-centered mother wounds through hierarchy, but healing happens through equality, seeing all children as equally deserving of love, protection, and priority. Your mother might never change. She might go to her grave believing your brother's mediocrity matters more than your brilliance. That's her loss, her limitation, her tragedy. Your job isn't to convince her of your worth. Your job is to know it yourself, so deeply that her distorted lens can no longer define your reflection. Stop waiting for her to choose you. She won't. She can't. She's too busy choosing them. Choose yourself instead. Break the chain. Be the mother, to yourself, to others, who loves daughters like they deserve to be loved, fiercely, fully, and without condition. The male-centered mother may have birthed you, but she doesn't get to define you. Not anymore. Not ever again. Thank you for joining us on this journey of understanding and reflection. If today's video resonated with you or opened your eyes to new perspectives, remember that healing and growth are always within reach. Whether you're navigating your own experiences or supporting someone else, know that you're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful content and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from it too. Continue the conversation in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and personal stories. As always, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, remember you are worthy, you are enough, and you have the power to break the cycle. See you in the next video. What do you think? Are male-centered women toxic mothers? Let me know in the comments section. Stay bougie. Follow and support me. All links in bio. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Check description for more info. New episodes every day.